Luminous wasn't surprised about the disappearance of the young girl at all. To her, the most important matter was lying in front of her, her precious companion. Lumina's resurrection spell had no effect and instead evaporated in midair. It baffled her. Why? She didn't die for long, so why is it? No, Luminous could see it. While Hinata's body was restored to perfection, the most important part of her, her soul, had vanished. Hinata, I am so sorry. To have let this happen to you when I am here. A single tear escaped from Lumina's eye. Yet, it was this exact moment that someone decided to speak up, spoiling the heartfelt scene. Quit mourning already. Everything has been going according to plan. This one just now went extremely well, Luminous. Under these circumstances, only one person, Granbell, was laughing gleefully. Obviously, this enraged Luminous. Hinata was dead, and Luminous didn't even get the time to grieve. Unforgivable, I will never forgive you. I will tear you apart. Luminous roared furiously. The flare of rage reddened her face. Her precious Hinata had been taken away right in front of her eyes. Yet she could do nothing. Feelings of powerlessness and desperation swarmed her mind. The level of anger was perhaps comparable to when her old kingdom was destroyed by Valdor. Luminous, the demon lord, was in distress. This reminder of her past trauma evoked Lumina's lust for strength, and it was the last straw that broke the camel's back. Her great emotional turmoil prompted some sort of change within Luminous, who had always suppressed her inner feelings. She had perfected all her skills. However, she'd never been able to ascend to the pinnacle of the world. Until now. The voice of the world resonated in the air, ringing in the silence of her evolution. Confirmed. Conditions satisfied. Unique skill lust has evolved to ultimate skill lustful King Asmodeus. At that moment, the power within Luminous soared to new heights, making her much more vicious and violent than ever she had reached the realm of the rulers of heaven. Demon Lord Luminous' evolved skill, lustful King Asmodeus, commanded life and death. Luminous awakened this power as a result of her feeling helpless at Hinata's death. However, Luminous did not react to her newfound power at all. She instinctively knew that, at this point in time, this skill meant nothing. It doesn't even matter anymore. It's too late. If it wasn't useful when I needed it most, then it is a meaningless power to me. Ignoring even the voice of the world, Luminous' fury continued burning. You wish to finish your duel with me, don't you? Indeed, Luminous. You've evolved too, haven't you? It was unexpected, but I am happy for you. Lumina's heterochromatic red and blue eyes glowed, much like that of a monster. As she glared at Granbell, they swirled with hate. Inexplicably, the face of the girl that had vanished suddenly flashed through her mind. Luminous chased a stray thought out of her head. This is different from what I've been told, but that hardly matters now. I shall send you to your maker, Granbell. And so, Luminous stood against Granbell. After over 1,000 years of entangled fate, they began their final showdown. I could only watch silently at how Luminous dealt with the issue. Even though she employed a textbook example of her resurrection spell, it failed to make a difference. It was a shocking scene to say the least. Basically, as long as one's soul was safe, resurrection should have been able to revive them regardless of their spiritual or astral body. So how come it didn't work? Answer. The soul of individual Hinata Sakaguchi has disappeared. No, soul. Actually, I noticed that too. This was the second time that Hinata had fallen, yet there was a distinct difference compared to last time. Luminous probably realized the same thing as well. Normally, one's soul wouldn't disappear so quickly. Was it possible that something went wrong, and we didn't recognize it? Perhaps Luminous was holding on to that tiny sliver of hope. With that being said, it still didn't appear to have worked. I never expected Luminous to fall into a panic like that. The intimacy of her relationship with Hinata must have been beyond my understanding. I couldn't excuse myself of this outcome either. My mind had become a jumbled mess. How could something like this happen, I thought to myself. But now was not the time for reflection. This is different from what I've been told, but that hardly matters now. I shall send you to your maker, Granbell. Luminous yelled. I jolted at her outburst, realizing that I had been dozing off this entire time. What the hell am I doing? Especially since this is a live battlefield. It was practically suicide. I can grieve later. I have to do what I can right now. Lumina's words sounded a bit strange, but I could look into it later. Keep calm, just keep calm. This wasn't over yet. If I acted recklessly, Hinata's sacrifice and everyone's efforts would be all for nothing. Even though I was forcing myself to do it, I still managed to switch up my mindset. Perhaps, had Luminous shouted a bit later, the situation would have worsened, the reason being the huge explosion at the Grand Cathedral that just occurred. The bright light and dust storm caused by the explosion rushed to the central area. It rapidly swept across the area, but compared to the recent lightspeed battle, it was rather sleep-inducing. I acted calmly, trying to protect the children and band members. I peeked in Xian and Ranga's direction, as I was worried about them. Apparently, Diablo had returned without me noticing and created a barrier to protect them. Kufufufufu, I was late. No, you're just in time. I thank Diablo. By the way, what surprised me was Xion. Ranga and Diablo both noticed the explosion, yet it seemed that Xion's attention was purely devoted to her enemy. Her expression was terrifyingly serious, and her face was flustered, seemingly mesmerized amidst all the bloodshed. It is a strangely sexy and eye-catching sight on the battlefield. Well, never mind that. They were being cornered by Razzle, but at least they were holding their own in the fight. Thus, I let Xion and Ranga continue their battle against Razzle. With that, I decided to find the source of the explosion. I soon felt an immense wave of Yuuki. The aura was so evil that a chill ran down my spine. This was a lot worse than an ominous sign. The oppressive atmosphere was as heavy as lead, like if the sky was crashing down. Why did this aura feel like the greater spirit that had once merged with Chloe? While similar, there were subtle differences. However, the immense presence it exuded was exactly like the one in Chloe. Warning. Target possesses a material body. Abnormal power detected. Limit is similar to the power of individual Vildor. Holy moly. Now that's a real monster. Unlike before, the result was no longer incalculable, but this knowledge wasn't very comforting at all. If it was just rampaging based on instinct like the Chaos Dragon, I might be able to handle it. On the other hand, if this enemy possessed intelligence, I could only surrender. Furthermore, if it had combat experience, the thought alone was terrifying. Perhaps I would see defeat before I could even get the chance to put up a fight. That power was several magnitudes higher than mine. Unfortunately, I had a sneaking suspicion that I most likely would have to fight it head-on. Is this what despair feels like? Shortly after, the smoke dissipated. Standing there was a peerless beauty. Stark naked like a newborn, her eyes were closed as she stood silently. Her long, silver-black hair drifted down her head, whilst she was surrounded by shimmering light. She had a beautiful body that was the stuff of dreams. I couldn't help but be mesmerized. It was a little untimely to be dazed. The one who stole my holy ark, is this your doing? And you just had to unseal the holy particles and awaken the consciousness of Chronoa too. Luminous shouted in a certain direction, where a familiar figure appeared. It was Yuuki. As I suspected, he was behind everything. While a part of me really wanted him to be innocent, it seemed that Wisdom King Raphael-san was right. Nevertheless, if you asked me who I trusted, it would undoubtedly be Raphael-san. That explained why I wasn't surprised at all. So, it did have something to do with you? I questioned coldly. Yuuki didn't look guilty in the slightest, and instead arrogantly replied, "Tisk, did I get caught? Never mind though, this is fine." So this was his true nature. Judging by his words, he seemed quite reckless. Behind Yuuki were two unfamiliar magians, both wearing masks. One had an asymmetric, with a pretentious attitude mask, and the other, an angry-looking mask. They were probably Laplace and Footman from the moderate clown troupe. I had my suspicions for a long time, but it appeared that they really were in league with Yuuki. "And you must be Luminous. I am Yuuki Kagurazaka, a pleasure to meet you." Silence. "How did you manage to break the seal?" "To answer your question, I have a very special attribute. My anti-skill can nullify all magic and special abilities." "I see. You are quite bold to give that information so blatantly." Luminous, biting her lip, glared at Yuuki. Still, her actual attention was entirely focused on Granbell. The two of them were both on equal footing. Neither could find an opening on the other. Moreover, Granbell was looking at the black-haired girl too. And just like Luminous, he was responding to all of her attacks. In terms of skill, the battle between the strong was indescribable. I suppose so. Anyhow, since Rimuru-san already knows this skill, there's no need for me to hold back. By the way, I also have a question to ask. Not you, but for Granbell-san over there. Yuuki spoke in a casual manner, but he didn't let down his guard. His eyes had been carefully surveilling his surroundings the whole time. "Kukuku, I can practically guess what your question is, but regardless, speak your mind." Since both Leon and I were free to move, Yuuki wouldn't be able to escape so easily. Though, that was assuming Yuuki planned to run away. Even so, I was confident that he would definitely try to flee. I still couldn't figure out why Yuuki would be here, right at this moment. It led me to believe that things probably hadn't turned out the way Yuuki wanted to today. Nonetheless, it'd be dangerous to act now without getting a clear picture of the situation. I could only try to deduce what was going on from Yuuki and Granbell's exchange. While I was told that the Holy Ark contained the hero, she won't listen to my commands no matter what. She even unlocked her seal by herself. What exactly is going on here, Granbell? Hero. You are saying that this girl is a hero? I was getting more and more confused. Why would a demon lord keep a sealed hero? Although, it appeared that Luminous treasured her a lot, so maybe it wasn't as simple as it seemed. Luminous answered the question for Yuuki. You don't say. That thing is known as a hero, but is not actually the hero. Right now, this girl in front of us is the incarnation of evil named Chronoa. He sounded furious, yet surprisingly, it was mixed with a touch of anxiety. Luminous said that the girl was called Chronoa, and that she was the incarnation of evil. Hearing these foreboding words from her, she had to be very dangerous. Kukuku, thank you for all your efforts, Yuuki, laughed Granbell. For that holy arc. Not even I could crack the seal of holy particles. That's why I manipulated you. Once the seal is undone, none of us can stand against her. You demon lords and evil men. All of you will die here. He finished with a roar. What a nice guy though. He spilled the beans about his entire plan. In a way, he did us a great favor. Even so, the current predicament didn't improve. I could hear Yuuki complaining. Seriously, in this game of betrayal, I lost. I totally got played. However, this stalemate was about to come to an end. A certain object started trembling. The black-haired girl, Chronoa, was moving. She shook her head slightly and opened her eyes. And thus began one chaotic battle.